Coming up on tonight's programme, a mum who killed her baby daughter by burning her with a hairdryer is jailed for 6 years. A rape survivor urges the government to abandon plans for the early release of hundreds of criminals as they look to tackle overcrowding in prisons. And we've been to the World Piping Championships in Glasgow as the competition gets underway. We'll have all the sport with Sheila as well. What have you got tonight?
Well, Andrew, we'll reflect on another tough match for Rangers boss Derek McInnes and look ahead to a big night of League Cup action in Ayrshire.
Thank you, Sheila. I'm Andrew Black. Welcome to the News at 7. OK, let's start this evening by looking at today's main stories. And a mother who killed her baby daughter by burning her with a hairdryer has been jailed for 6 years. Courtney Gartshaw was convicted of culpable homicide after a trial at the High Court in Aberdeen in July. The UK government's temporarily banned the sale of disposable barbecues. It says there are significant risks to the public after they caused a number of serious wildfires this summer. The potentially deadly blue tongue virus, which mainly affects sheep, has been found on a third farm in Dumfries and Galloway. Scotland's chief vet says the infections probably come from infected midges. And Edinburgh's Princes Street could fully reopen by the end of August if a former department store wrecked in a huge fire is made safe. Several tons of brick and stone have now been removed from what was the Debenhams store, and steel beams have been put up to stabilise the building. And for more information on all those stories, you can scan the QR code on the screen right now. It will take you to the BBC Scotland News app. Now, as we've just heard, an Aberdeenshire woman has been sentenced to 6 years in prison for the death of her 3-month-old baby. 28-year-old Courtney Gartshaw inflicted what was described as significant and sustained heat on the head and body of 3-month-old Dahlia Rose using a hairdryer. During sentencing today, the judge described it as tragic and terrible. Stephen Golden reports.
Dahlia Rose Gartshaw was just 3 months old when she died in September 2023. Her mother, Courtney Gartshaw, had spent that night drinking and returned to her flat in Peterhead around 4 in the morning. By the next day, Dahlia Rose was dead, having suffered burns to her head, body and neck from a hairdryer that was found plugged in next to the bed. Last month, a jury in Aberdeen convicted 28-year-old Courtney Gartshaw of culpable homicide. And today, she was sentenced to 6 years in prison.
This is a uniquely disturbing and distressing case. But, as Mr. Makara has pointed out, it is tragic as well as terrible. And that is because the evidence suggested that the accused loved Dahlia Rose, yet will have to live the rest of her life with the knowledge that she was responsible for her death.
The judge said the baby's pain and suffering should have been obvious to her mother, who he said had tried to cover up her involvement afterwards. Courtney Gartshaw claims she doesn't remember using the hairdryer. Her defence lawyer says he couldn't offer a reasonable explanation but could only speculate it was because Dahlia Rose was cold and it was used in an attempt to try and warm her up. Appearing by video link, Courtney Gartshaw sobbed and wiped away tears as the judge told her she was guilty of a gross breach of the most basic duty of any parent to keep their child safe. Stephen Godden reporting Scotland at the High Court in Edinburgh.
Well, on the issue of jail sentences, the Scottish Government's looking at plans for the early release of hundreds of prisoners. Ministers say urgent actions needed to tackle overcrowding in our jails. Prisons in England and Wales are dealing with the same challenge. The most controversial of the Scottish Government's proposals would see prisoners who've been jailed for more than 4 years being released early after potentially serving 2/3 of their sentence. Groups which work to support the victims of crime say that could mean people serving jail terms for crimes like sexual violence getting out much earlier.
No two crimes are the same, no two prisoner is the same, and we think that this might be a little bit too much of a blunt object, and we would like to think, are there particular crimes where there should be exemptions or where further assessments need to be made. So, for example, where there's targeted crimes, which is usually around things like domestic abuse, and I know a lot of victim support organisations are concerned about that. So we would like people to really have another think about that, and do we want to ensure that there are measures in place for there to be some exemptions, but that's something that we're going to look at through the consultation process.
One survivor of rape has asked politicians to abandon these latest early release plans. Katie Johnson was targeted in Aberdeen city centre in 2016 by Alistair MacDonald, who was later jailed for 10 years. Under the government's proposals, long-term prisoners like MacDonald would be freed automatically after completing 2/3 of their sentence. Katie's been speaking to our Home Affairs correspondent, David Curran.
10 years will be coming up this August or September, I believe, so he will have served his sentence by September.
So he'll be getting out, and then he'll be under supervision in the community. Do you have confidence about that part of it, that he'll be supervised in a way that can prevent him reoffending?
I think mostly, but I don't feel like they can have like a completely close eye on all offenders when they're released. So it's kind of making me a bit nervous. But you just have to have faith, I guess, in the system, that they will keep an eye on him. As a victim, you don't get to hear about how he acted in prison. You don't know what his rehabilitation process is like, if he's remorseful for what he's done. You don't get to find out anything like that. So he could have been in prison this whole time creating a grudge against me. I don't know this. So it's a worrying prospect.
So the proposals that the Scottish Government's put out for consultation are that prisoners like the man who attacked you would be freed automatically after 2/3 of their sentence. What do you think of that proposal?
I don't like it at all. I feel as victims we go through the ordeal of actually getting attacked, and then you have to go through the ordeal of the legal process, the courts, reporting it to the police, and then once the person is sentenced, I feel like the prison sentence is a time for the victim to recover and go through therapy, and I wouldn't say it's a relaxing time, but at least you know the person that's done something bad is behind jail and they can't harm you or harm others. So I feel like it's almost like a punishment on the victim again. We've not done anything wrong. It's not our fault that the prisons are full. So I don't feel like the victims should be punished again just because they can't hold prisoners for their full sentence.
So that's how you feel, that it would be a punishment on people like yourself, on victims of very serious crimes, if the offender's released early?
Yeah, I feel like when you're going through the court process, you know the maximum sentence that someone who did this crime could get. And once he gets sentenced, it would be in the back of your mind, oh, they'll probably not serve half of this sentence. So it might even put people off reporting because they think, well, they might be behind bars for like 2 or 3 years. So I think I would class it as a punishment for the victim again.
Well, here's what the Justice Secretary had to say about Katie's story.
This proposal that we're taking forward is open for consultation, and it's there for people to be able to provide their views, and I've been able to have a very good dialogue with victims' organisations through the course of this summer, and victims need to be at the heart of these considerations. My heart goes out to Katie in terms of what she has been through, and I don't diminish that in any way. And this is not just about taking forward a set of proposals in order to deal with a prison population issue. It's also about looking at how we manage our offenders, how we manage and prevent reoffending happening so that we can prevent people becoming victims in the first place. And that is part of what the consultation is driving at, to look at how we can manage people who are going to be released at some stage. This is not about people being kept in incarceration indefinitely. They are to be released. It's how we safely and properly manage that process of release so that we are able to ensure that we're reducing reoffending rates. That's at the heart of what we're seeking to do.
That's the Justice Secretary Neil Gray speaking there. Now, as we mentioned earlier in the programme, the UK government has announced a temporary ban on disposable barbecues. It says they've been responsible for causing several big wildfires this summer. The Prime Minister has described the UK as a tinderbox. Ben Phillips been to the banks of Loch Lomond to find out what visitors there make of the ban.
Well, it's been a warm and mostly sunny summer here in Scotland. There's been a lot of alfresco dining opportunities at beauty spots like this here at Loch Lomond, but the dry conditions have brought their issues as well. There is a serious drought ongoing in England and Wales at the moment. There was a major wildfire in the Cairngorms National Park affecting a vast area, affecting trees and wildlife. And tonight the UK government has banned the sale of disposable barbecues in shops and online, saying they pose a risk to people and the environment under the current conditions. Of course, many people might have been planning to use disposable barbecues this weekend, but the Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, has urged people not to. Here's the reaction of people here.
I think it's a good idea, because there's portable barbecues, you can take it, it's not getting left, and they're not getting left on the beach. Obviously less litter as well, eh?
Anyone can buy a barbecue really, anyone can light it, and they can do anything with it. So a cigarette, yeah, they're bad as well, but the barbecues probably are the main thing just now.
It will help, because there's people who use them, and they've got to Balloch Park, and there's benches for picnic, and they've got them on the table, and you want to see the table, you wouldn't sit in it.
Where we are going today, like, we've got all our barbecue stuff to do, and then it's sort of, we're going camping, so it then puts the sort of spanner in the works that actually how do you feed yourself. But you can understand, like, obviously we are responsible, but there is people that clearly aren't, and it's destroying the wildlife and the nature in it.
Now, of course, not all of the wildfires this summer have been linked to disposable barbecues, but the Prime Minister said that some have been linked to disposable barbecues. He said they simply can't be considered a safe product at the moment. And the ban applies here in Scotland and also in England and in Wales, and will be kept under review until the current weather conditions change. But ultimately, the advice is, if you're outdoors and you're lighting any form of fire, try and be careful to ultimately try and prevent any further wildfires from happening. Ben Phillip, reporting Scotland at Balloch on Loch Lomond.
OK, moving on now. And crime carried out by young people is in the spotlight again. The number of teenagers involved in violence overall has fallen, but attempted murders involving 16 and 17-year-olds is up, as is the number of weapons seized from young people. The organisation trying to tackle all of this is the Violence Reduction Unit. It's part of Police Scotland and gets government funding. But the person who runs it, Jimmy Paul, says more money is needed to stop the country ending up back in the situation it was in before the pandemic. He told me more.
So over the last 21 years, we've seen significant reductions in violence in Scotland. We've gone from a peak in 2005 where homicides were at 137 and young people were involved in many more of them than they are now as a proportion, down to 45 last year, which is a historic and significant low. Now, I know the headlines don't always reflect this, but young people have led the way in those reductions of violence. Their role has been significant in making Scotland a safer place. But we live at a time of great change. We live at a time post-COVID with social media, the heightened desensitization of young people to violent imagery and videos. And we know that some young people do get involved in violence, and when they do, it has devastating consequences. So we're still looking to act to stamp that out and drive that down. So how have young people taken control of this themselves and led the way in terms of reducing violent crime? Well, a big part has been youth work and safe spaces and support to young people to give them the best start in life. If we raise children that are emotionally regulated, that know how to identify what's going on with themselves, to seek safe adults, to escalate risks and call the right people if they're in trouble, then they're less likely to get involved in violence. And we've seen that young people have done those things. And this is why the world looks to Scotland's lead, the model of the Violence Reduction Unit and the public health approach to violence that we've spoken about now for 2 decades. It's being copied the world over, and that's why we've got to continue to deliver on that approach. There are some bits of these crime figures that are going up. So more 16 and 17-year-olds linked to attempted murder cases. There's more weapons being seized from kids as well. Why do you think those numbers are increasing? Yes, you're right, and that is massively concerning. We also see data from the Scottish Police Authority that shows as a proportion of all violence, young people are at historic lows, but at the same time the increased complexity is the issue for some of those young people that you referenced. Lots of them are growing up in harsh poverty, lots are using social media to organise violence. We've just launched a report called The Way We See It, and as part of that report young people have told us they are scared, they're fearful because of what they're seeing on social media happening in their streets or in their communities or in their school, and because of the headlines that sometimes sensationalise this issue disproportionately. So fear is a massive factor. So we've got to work together to drive down that fear that young people are experiencing and to give them the support to flourish, to feel loved, to explore things that they can do, their passions, their interests, music, art, sports, whatever it might be.
What can be done then? What do you think needs to be done?
Well, we've got a rich history in Scotland of learning what works. What can be done? Well, we need to continue to invest in youth work. We need to continue to create safe spaces for young people. If young people are in trouble or they're experiencing poverty, give support to their families at that time and not a minute too late. We need to give young people role models so that they can see in action what it means to grow up as a good person who contributes to the world and can make really safe, healthy decisions. We know there are young people that don't have those things, and that's not good enough.
Jimmy Paul there from Scotland's Violence Reduction Unit chatting to me a bit earlier. And still to come on the programme, we'll have the weather with Gillian, and we've been at the start of the World Piping Championships. But right now, let's hand to Sheila with the sport.
Thanks, Andrew. Winless in 4 games, knocked out of the Europa League, and boos ringing around Ibrox. It's not been the best start for Derek McInnes. In fact, it's the worst start of any permanent Rangers manager. They carry on in Europe, but it's in the Conference League after last night's 1-1 draw against Jagiellonia Białystok. The Polish side progressing 3-2 on aggregate. McInnes was blunt after the match, saying he felt his team deserved to be booed off the pitch and isn't ready for the Europa League.
Yeah, I think it was justified, to be honest. It wasn't good enough. What we served up, particularly second half, wasn't good enough. I've got to be honest with that, I've got to own it. The club's built for Europa League and Champions League, and that's the intention to get there, but I'm not sure the team's quite ready for it at the minute. And it pains me to say that, to be honest. We should be winning this game. I think Jagiellonia are a decent team, and I think they've got some good players, and I think they're well coached, but Rangers at their best, Rangers as strong as they can be, should be winning this tie.
Well, earlier I spoke to Chris Jack from the Rangers Review, and I asked him what he thought of Derek McInnes' comments after the match.
For a team who were Europa League finalists just a few years ago, who have qualified for group stages regularly over recent years, and who have had an awful lot of money spent on it over the course of the American ownership, it was quite a statement from Derek. I think it will certainly make the fans sit up and take notice about just where this squad is, where this team is. Derek has been really consistent over the course of the window about the need to add quality to this group. You only have to look at the team line last night to look at the bench to realise that Rangers are still short. Having said that, Rangers should have enough about them at this stage of European competition to get through. 5 games to go last season. They were dreaming of winning the Premiership and potential Champions League football. 4 games into this season, they're staring at the Conference League and a playoff.
Yeah, dropping down into the Conference League playoff, what kind of difference do you think it's going to make to their finances and their outlook for the season?
You're not going to make as much in prize money, you're not going to make as much in other revenue, and that's on the assumption that the Rangers fans are going to be invested in a Conference League campaign. Or do they turn off? Do they decide that the ticket packages are not worth taking up? You have 6 games to play rather than 8 games to play, so you're automatically 1 Ibrox game down. In a football sense, it's clearly a huge setback. If you're trying to attract players, one of the key things of playing for Rangers is that lure of European football. Can you win titles to get access to the Champions League? If it's not going to be Champions League, can you then go into Europa League, test yourself, compete and really hold your own? Rangers have done that in recent years. Last year was a big step back in that regard, and this year they find themselves in the Conference League for the first time, if of course they can actually get through that playoff over the next couple of weeks.
And you touched on it there. Do you fear the fans might start voting with their feet on this one?
I think the crowd on Sunday will be really interesting, just to see where where the fans are. Every individual fan and every fan base as a collective, they're going to have a breaking point. They're going to have a point where they say, actually, I don't fancy it this afternoon. It's time for the club and the team and the manager to give me something. That bond between those on the park and those off it has been fractured really early this season because of not just the European results, but the domestic results and performances as well, obviously. I think Derek would still retain the support of a huge percentage of the fan base. It's not as bad in terms of manager-fan relations as it was under Russell Martin. But ultimately, it's Derek's team. These are his players. He has to find a way of getting things turned around and back on a track.
Chris Jack from the Rangers Review speaking to me earlier. Now, there's a huge match in Ayrshire tonight as Kilmarnock take on Ayr United in the League Cup. Local bragging rights and a place in the quarter-finals are up for grabs. Kenny Crawford is at Rugby Park for us.
Well, we're used to seeing derbies in Glasgow, derbies in Edinburgh and derbies in Dundee several times a season, but this one in Ayrshire between Kilmarnock and Ayr United is much rarer, mostly because they normally play in different divisions. In fact, the last time they played each other was 4 years ago. In the Premiership so far this campaign, Kilmarnock have had a tough start. They've lost their first 2 games under Neil McCann. As for Ayr United in the Championship under Gary Naismith, they've taken 4 points from 6. But it's safe to say Kilmarnock fans won't be offering them a warm welcome this evening.
If you said to me, do I want to see them get promoted? Only if that meant we got to play them more often. That's the only thing I miss. And as long as they don't actually win any silverware.
If we can't turn up for a game against your biggest rivals, then I don't know any kind of game you can turn up for.
In my view, it's a bit light-hearted. It's just like them.
If we put on a wee bit more of a show tonight, hopefully put them back down the road where they belong.
Now remember, this match between Kilmarnock and Ayr United will be played on real grass this evening because Kilmarnock relaid their pitch over the summer, so it's no more artificial pitch. The purists will be happy about that. Remember too, a lot more intriguing ties over Saturday and Sunday. Stenhousemuir against Motherwell is one of them. Dundee United host Celtic at Tannadice, and then on Sunday Rangers host St Mirren, the holders of the League Cup, at Ibrox. So lots more to happen over the weekend, but as for tonight, Kilmarnock against Ayr United is live on BBC Radio Scotland's Sports Sound.
Yeah, big one there tonight.
Yeah, Kenny seemed to miss off another quite big cup tie that's happening this weekend.
Reveal all.
Yes, well, Ross County Dunfermline, of course.
Of course.
Yes. Now, Sheila, how do you feel about pipe bands? How do you feel about this?
Well,
did you have your fill at the World Cup?
I had quite a big spell with pipe bands over the summer, but yeah, still enjoying it. I've been hearing them out and about today as well.
Yes. Well, if you fancy a bit more of that, you could head down to Glasgow Green this weekend because pipe bands from all over the world are gathering there for the World Championships. More than 200, in fact, are taking part in the contest over the next 2 days. Glasgow has in fact been home to the competition for more than 7 decades. Hazel Martin went to check out this year's competition.
We are here at the World Pipe Band Championships and I am here with the organiser at the RSPBA, Colin Mulhern. Colin, just describe to me what the atmosphere here is like over the weekends.
It's absolutely amazing. We've got over 200 bands, in fact 211 bands to be precise, from all over the world. We have 66 drum majors with us as well tomorrow, all competing to have that World Championship title.
That's fantastic, and you mentioned coming from all over the world, these pipe bands. What countries are representing?
Well, not to put anybody in the spotlight, but we have New Zealand, Australia, Malaysia, we have Oman, we have North American bands from both the USA and Canada. We have our homegrown bands, we can't forget about them. We have our Irish bands. So literally a world championship. We have seen the Scottish people dispersed all across the world, and they've taken this cultural and tradition elements with them. And that's why you find that the bagpipe is all over the world. And being all over the world, they're passionate about it as well, because everyone wants to remember that tie to their homeland and where they originated from.
I think being here makes you feel proud, doesn't it?
Do you know what it does? Because while we were not the inventor of the bagpipe, but we did a good one, the Great Highland Bagpipe, and that seems to be the one that we hear most places we go to. But to be honest with you, they all work so hard, and there's no failure here today. definitely not. It's about building for the next time.
Today and tomorrow will not only see a tartan takeover, but a celebration of music and culture.
It's the pinnacle of the year, so it is. I suppose this is what we all work towards, is the World Pipe Band Championships.
And what is it like being here? Describe the atmosphere.
Yeah, the atmosphere is great, so it is. And you sort of get to meet people, you know, from different countries, and it's a real excitement about it.
Do you get nervous?
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah. And then just...
It's how you channel the nerves, how you... I'm a wee bit older, as you can see, and it's how you use that to your advantage, and it's all psychological when you come to the nerves and a bit of experience coming on and trying to get the best out of the whole band just to get the ultimate performance in the park. That's what everyone's trying to do.
Just how much work goes into it?
Yeah, so we started getting ready almost this time last year. We were putting music together and practicing. Also financially, it's a big commitment from everyone to come across. I think all up it costs around 150,000 Australian dollars for the band to come. We've got people flying in from all over Australia, so big commitment from them too to come to those practices. From, you know, that in and of itself can be a 2-hour flight to get to practice. So it's been a lot of work. Way home to have a shower and a rest and recuperate and debrief, and then we'll be back into it tomorrow.
Oh, well, listen, thank you so much for stopping to chat, and really, really good luck tomorrow.
Thank you, appreciate it.
There we go, the winners will be announced at the weekend. Now, let's get some weather with Gillian. I did struggle to get to sleep last night, but it feels very much fresher today.
Yes, welcome tonight, I think, Andrew. It will be a wee bit cooler and fresher. Today was mostly dry. We started Friday with a lovely glimpse of the Northern Lights from one of our weather watchers in Aberdeenshire. And eastern Scotland has seen the best of the clear breaks today. We had sunshine on Leith a little earlier as well. With the cloudiest skies in the west and especially the northwest, where we've had a few showers. Still a lovely picture though, isn't it? What about the weekend? Well, if we take a look at the pressure chart, actually high pressure there or thereabouts over the weekend. So lots of dry weather to come. Just some bits and pieces of rain as fairly weak frontal systems try to make inroads. But it's into next week that we'll see this area of low pressure moving in, bringing some very wet weather for Monday. Tomorrow morning, though, we start dry with some decent sunny spells for southern, central, eastern Scotland, the odd shower over the southern uplands. Temperature-wise, touch fresher than it has been recent mornings, 12 or 13 Celsius. We'll have cloudy conditions for the Western Isles, the Northwest Highlands and the Northern Isles, with some showery outbreaks. A few of those could be on the heavy side. And as we head through the day, we'll lose some of that sunshine to thickening cloud, and showers develop a bit more widely as well, especially drifting into parts of Moray and Aberdeenshire. And a few of those could be on the heavy side. Temperature-wise, they're down on recent days, about 17 to 20 Celsius for most of us. Now we head into Sunday and we still have high pressure to the north of us, but you can see we have this frontal system trying to move in. So we'll start with sunshine for eastern Scotland, but then again we'll see cloud increasing. We'll see showery outbreaks of rain moving in from the west to affect parts of southwest Scotland, Argyll, the Hebrides. There'll also be a scattering of showers affecting Caithness, the Aberdeenshire coast and the Northern Isles. But in between, although there will be lots of cloud, it will be predominantly dry, perhaps a few brighter breaks, and temperature-wise, again, will be mid to high teens for the most part. Now we head into the rest of the week, and you can see we have low pressure close by, so it's looking a bit more unsettled with some spells of sunshine but also some rain at times. This is Monday, and as you can see we have outbreaks of rain mainly focused across western Scotland in the morning, but into the afternoon that rain will develop more widely. Some of it could be on the heavy side. Temperature-wise, around where we'd expect for the time of year, mid to high teens, and winds a wee bit brisk at times. That's the forecast, Andrew.
Great, thank you very much for that, Gillian. And that is all for now. The weekend edition of the News at 7 is back tomorrow at the usual time. Have a fantastic weekend. Bye for now.